Welcome to House Talk, with maintenance tips unique to the retreat at Banning Lewis Ranch, with your host, Doug Bowman. Hello and welcome. Today we're going to talk about hot water heaters. We ignore them until they fail, and then it's a panic to get them back. We'll discuss the Bradford White and Rheem water heater units that were installed in most of our homes. We'll talk briefly about the most common water heater repairs, how to extend the life of your water heater. We'll show you how to do a water heater flush, and we'll wrap it up with a discussion about warranties. So let's get into it. So here's the top 7 most reported issues with water heaters. By far, the most common repair is flushing and clearing of the sediment buildup from the bottom of the tank. While it's technically maintenance, it becomes a repair when it starts causing popping or rumbling noises or reduced heat efficiency. A depleted anode rod. This sacrificial anode is designed to corrode so that your tank doesn't. It typically needs replacement every 3 to 5 years. If ignored, the tank begins to rust internally, leading to a non-repairable leak. Thermocouples. A failing thermocouple is one of the most frequent mechanical failures. This component senses the pilot flame. If it's dirty or worn, it won't signal the gas valve to open, causing the pilot light to repeatedly go out. A leaking temperature and pressure relief valve. The T&P relief valve is a critical safety feature that may begin to leak or drip if it fails to reseal after testing or if the tank has been overpressurized. You'll first notice it by the water dripping out of its drain pipe. Gas controller issues. The main gas controller is the brains of the water heater and regulates the gas flow and temperature settings. These valves can fail internally, leading to inconsistent water temperature or a complete lack of hot water. Dip tube replacements. The dip tube normally directs cold water to the bottom of the tank for heating. If it cracks or disintegrates, cold water mixes with the hot water at the top, resulting in lukewarm water at best, even when the water heater is running. And lastly, tank leaks. Luckily, this is the least frequent repair because it usually signals the end of the unit's life. If the tank itself is leaking from the base or the sides due to internal corrosion, it won't be able to be repaired and will require a full replacement. So let's discuss the 2 top repair items, sediment flushing and anode degradation, and discuss the maintenance tasks the manufacturer recommends to greatly extend the life of your water heaters. Let's start with an annual timeline with your standard 6-year warranty highlighted. Annual flushing is one of the maintenance tasks that gives you the biggest bang for your buck. It's simple and homeowners can do it with minimal risk. I'll actually show you how to do it later in the video. Manufacturers recommend you flush your water heater every 6 to 12 months, but it's really dictated by what you find when you flush them. So for now, I'll show an annual flush in our timeline. Next is the recommended manufacturer's anode replacement frequency. So what's an anode rod? Simply put, when you combine steel and oxygen, you'll eventually get rust, and with rust comes holes. Not a good thing when you're talking about 40 or 50 gallons of hot water. So an anode rod is a sacrificial rod that will attract and be consumed by oxygen first to protect the tank's liner. They don't last forever, so you have to replace them with new rods before the tank wall becomes the next target. Manufacturers recommend every 3 to 5 years, but having replaced mine at 4 years, I can tell you in our area they'll make it to 5 years based on the quality of our water. But I would not recommend going past 5 years because the anode pipe threads become seized in place, making it extremely difficult to break free. Anode rod replacement is definitely not a job for beginners, requires special tools, and if done incorrectly can permanently result in the damage to the tank's threads. So you definitely want to call a pro when you're replacing an anode rod. The payoff of doing the scheduled flushing and anode replacements is that the tank will easily last 20 to 25 years, if not more, and that's not an unrealistic number. If the cost of an anode rod replacement is more than you want to manage, there is a new technology available now. It's an electric anode rod that never gets consumed. It comes with a 20-year warranty and eliminates the need for 5-year replacements. The trick is, you still have to get the existing anode rod out, so you have to act before it seizes up in place. I installed one of these electric anode rods at the 4-year mark without any issues. Here's the device. It goes for about $170 on Amazon, versus the lower cost of the old school anode rods, but you don't have to pay for the labor costs more than once. By the way, you will need a power source nearby for the low voltage power supply. So as promised, let's get back to that annual flush, which is something you will have to continue doing, and it won't cost you anything. Flushing gets rid of the sediment that develops and settles to the bottom of your tank, reducing efficiency and inhibiting heat transfer, which makes your water heater work harder and longer. So let me start with what we're doing when we do a flush. First, we close the cold water supply valve to stop water from flowing in. Then we open a hot water faucet valve in the house to vent the tank. We attach a hose to the drain line. We open the drain valve to allow water to drain out, allowing air to be drawn in through the faucet we just opened. When the drain hose line stops flowing, the tank is drained. Now, we fully open the cold water supply valve for about 10 seconds and then close it. During these 10 seconds, cold water rushes into the tank through the dip tube, a long tube that delivers cold water straight to the bottom of the tank. This water splashes the bottom of the tank hard and agitates the sediment or deposits, allowing them to be drained away through the drain hose. Once the hose stops flowing, repeat this 10-second flush 3 or 4 more times. So now that you know what's going on inside the tank, let's go through the steps for real. First, to make sure the burner flame doesn't kick on when we're draining the tank, we'll turn off the controller on the Bradford White units and dial down the temperature setting on the Rheem units to the pilot setting. Now, to repeat the steps we just talked about previously, close the cold water supply valve above the tank, connect the drain hose to the drain valve, open the hot water faucet in the house to allow air to be drawn in. Now we'll start draining the tank by opening the drain valve and allowing water to flow to the floor drain or to the street. Once the tank is empty, repeat the flush 3 to 4 more times by opening the cold water inlet valve for about 10 seconds, and then closing the valve, and then allowing it to fully drain each time. Once the flushing cycles are complete, then you can start the fill process. First, by closing the drain valve and removing the hose, then opening the cold water inlet supply valve to completely fill the tank. Once water flows out of the house faucet, you can close the faucet now. And finally, you can restore the temperature controls back by either turning the Bradford White controller to the on position, or if you have the Rheem water heater, you can just dial your temperature setting back to your desired temperature. All in all, the entire process should take you just slightly over an hour to complete, with most of the time just waiting for the tank to empty. Based on your results, you can decide to leave your flushing at a year interval or make adjustments to that frequency. Be sure to keep track of when you perform these flushes and when you change your anode rods. I would keep any receipts for this work as well. I just use a marker and keep track of my anode changeouts right on the tank. The last comment I'll make today deals with the manufacturer's warranties. The Rheem units do a good job of stating when the water heater was manufactured, right on their label. Unfortunately, the Bradford White require you to go to their website, find the warranty page, and enter the serial number to find out the manufacturer's date. And if you happen to have upgraded your water heater to a 9 or 12-year warranty, be aware that the longer warranty did not get you out of doing the flushes or the anode rod changeouts as recommended. In fact, if you file a claim for a leaking tank, don't be surprised if they deny your claim if you can't prove you followed their manufacturer recommendations. We've covered a lot of ground here, but if you want to greatly extend the life of your water heater, you've got to do the maintenance. Just remember, an anode rod changeout and a flushing of your water heater is the equivalent of an oil change to a car, and you would never ignore an oil change. So don't be afraid to get started. Well, thanks again, and feel free to comment below. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button.